Nic Enright has been DFA'd by the Marlins after his rehab time has been completed, 30 days. So with him being DFA'd, if he's not claimed, the Guardians can buy him back for $50,000. And if they do not want to buy him and he's not claimed, he can return to the Marlins. But chances of that happening are very slim, as the Guardians would more than welcome him back for less than what they got him for. But Kevin, you had a great interview with Nic Enright. I don't know if we have a clip here, if we want to show that interview, if we have time, maybe during the break. But talk to us. Went to Jacksonville. Talk to us about Nic Enright, what you heard from him before the news of him being DFA'd.
Well, I spoke to Nick. He was basically done with the rehab. It just been his 60-day IL had just come to an end the day prior. I spoke to him on Friday. I spoke to him on Saturday. His rehab, or not his rehab, he was finishing the rehab, but he was going to be reinstated. He was done with his IL stint, and I spoke to him. He looked extremely excited. He was very, very blessed to finally have the opportunity to pitch in the big leagues for the first time ever. He didn't even talk about himself. He spoke more about his family and how excited he was for them to watch him. He was going to bring them all over. I mean, he was very pumped, and the numbers didn't look the greatest during his Jacksonville rehab start, but he did have some good moments. For the love of God, this guy had cancer just a couple months ago. I think I would say early February, and he's now back in action, or he was going to be back in action, and Miami DFA'd him, which I think not only was a bad move for the team in terms of the player that they would have been getting, I think it would have been a very nice piece of the bullpen. They obviously had intentions of bringing him on the roster, despite the cancer and anything, because they drafted this guy in the Rule 5 and they were going to put him on the 26-man active roster. But it's a really bad PR move. You're basically telling this guy, all right, you're going to go through your whole rehab, you're going to go through everything, and we're going to, basically fuck you over right at the end. That's the only way I could say it. And that's exactly what they did to him. Now he has to go through waivers. He has to see if the Cleveland Guardians buy him back. And if they don't, he's going to be back in Jacksonville where he's basically screwed. And that's basically how I put it. I feel super bad for this guy. Nick is one of the nicest guys in the organization. I spoke to him. It's truly inspiring story. Coming back from cancer in just a couple months, you saw what Liam Hendricks did. I think Enright did it a little bit quicker than Hendricks in terms of the comeback. Obviously, he didn't make it. He hasn't been on the big league roster yet, but you got to feel really bad for Nic Enright. I truly do. And, I'm not one who's going to go rave over a roster move. I'll do my research. I'll do it. But this is the one roster move I've really felt angry and mad about. And I know little by little it's going to go away. But, it truly hurts to see a guy like this who's worked so hard have his dream cut short right at the end because they don't have a spot for him, which I think Brosbon should have been sent down at some point. I know people would disagree, but he struggled in the month of May. He struggled for the past couple of weeks. A nice stint in AAA wouldn't have hurt him, and you put Enright on the roster, and then it made an assessment from there. And you also have Puck coming back, so you do have to make a move. So you may as well should have made a couple. So I know some may disagree with my view, but I really hate to see this guy go through what he just had to go through just to be DFA'd by the Marlins, and probably going back to Cleveland. If I had to bet, that team will definitely pay $50K to bring him back.
Yeah, it's Kevin pretty much hit it, everything that I was going to say. But what I also say, and I called this out to you guys last night in the chat when this happened, and of course, the timing of it is also what's very interesting. They do it. I think the Heat were in the third quarter of their game. It's Game 7, and so because they don't want attention on it, so they do it when there's.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't think anybody's watching except for us. They literally do it last minute, like right at the end of his rehab time, and they just like, okay, yeah, you're gone. I mean, like Kevin said, the guy had a pump put in his chest. Like, I mean, it's just horrible for this young man. Super, super nice guy, as Kevin alluded to. In spring training, whenever he's walking by or running by, he would always just give a head nod or, hey, how are you doing today? Like, just super grateful to be where he is, super grateful to be alive, probably super grateful to be healthy with everything that's going on with him and still being able to get his work done on the baseball field. And he never shied away from that. Like, he would do his PFPs, he would do his bullpens. Like, you did not see this guy not working in spring or in his rehab, even with everything that he had going on happening. So really unfortunate. I feel really poorly for this guy. The good news is for him, I have no doubt that he will either be claimed by another team, or as Kevin said, go back for the small fee to the Guardians. So he's not going to be on the Marlins. I don't think there's any way that this guy will be back with Miami. I think he's going to be somewhere else for sure. And that may be the best thing.
We'll make his debut this season for sure.
Right. So my last thing, and I don't want to harp too long, Danny, and I won't, but my last thing, and I called this out to you guys last night, like this is how they treat guys that they don't have a lot invested in. This guy's a Rule 5 pick, as Kevin said. They do the same thing with LeBlanc. They don't care about him not being with the Marlins. Now he's in AAA, even though he did pretty well last year. They've done the same thing with other Rule 5 guys that they've claimed. They just don't stick around very long. But this one is very, 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 very upsetting with everything that this young man went through. But man, I wish him the best. Super nice guy, as Kevin said, and I really think he's going to do well somewhere else.
It's the same
sorry
60
to cut you
feet,
off.
6 inches it is there as it is here. But I think for my family especially, that's going to be super, super cool. Like, again, my goal is to go out there and do anything I can to help the team win. But, I think it's an accomplishment for them and all the sacrifices that my parents and fiance and everyone around me have made to help put me in the position to get to this spot. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Once Puck comes back, he's less than a week away, as Isaac pointed out. I think that had a lot to do with it. Ideally, you'd want Enright to have some sort of cup of coffee to show himself. And if he was really unfit to perform, then maybe they make that tough decision and get rid of him. It's just that this little window that they had wasn't that wide. And the team itself, I think that's probably the biggest factor, is the team itself is in a position to contend. And there's a lot of relievers already this season through the first third of the year that have built up a lot of trust in Skip Schumacher. So they like their bullpen a lot. There are a couple guys on the 40-man in the minors that are ready to come up potentially later in the year. So this has been a surprising strength of the team to this point in the season. With Puck being so close to returning, I think that makes it a little more understandable with them, where they feel like they're going to have 8 guys at one time with, I don't know whether it's Brazaban or whether it's Hoeing that gets squeezed out for Puck in the coming days, where they feel it's a really deep situation. And like squeezing Enright in there just because they originally picked him. And I guess the bigger factor is when you make a pick like that, it's because you value the player long-term as well. Ideally, they ride out the season on your active roster as a Rule 5, but then for the next, all their team-controlled years, you have them to try to get the very best out of them. So in taking him, it was about an eye towards the future. So that's the aspect of it that seems messy and kind of incoherent, is that they would make the pick in the first place, then not even see him in the big leagues. And so now they're prioritizing all these guys most of these guys are older and closer to free agency. And now this player that has all those years of control ahead of him, they don't really get to find out what he's going to turn into.
And listening to the interview, he not once mentioned, I'm proud of myself. No. His family. And it's a really bad situation for him. I feel really bad. And what makes it even worse is the fact that they did this at the time that they did, as Carver mentioned. They did this with 3 minutes left in the Eastern Conference Finals, thinking this would slip by. It wasn't going to slip by because we checked the transactions reports almost every single day, and we were going to notice it, and we were going to report it, and we got it. And it's really messed up how they did it. I think it's a bad PR move on their end, not only to do it at that time, because you DFA'd him, it's a business move, but you did it that moment. Like you could have waited till tomorrow to do this, or today.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like you said, there's a reason that they did it at that time, because they wanted it to get by the public light. So whatever. Just to correct something that was on the screen before, though, from LMF. He will be exposed to, I think, every other team before he has to go through waivers, I believe. And then the Guardians would get the chance to get him back for the, $50K, Eli, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he will have a chance to get exposed to the rest of the league. So somebody's going to take a chance on this guy. It's
If he wants to be on the active roster, if he's claimed, sorry to cut you off.
I'm pretty sure he would have to go to the active roster, because he was coming off of Rule 5. So he would have to go to the active 26-man roster. But there's teams in the league that are going to take that chance. As Eli said, the Marlins bullpen's been a strength. The two guys that you could point to, as you guys said, were Brazo and Hoeing. I could have seen probably either one of those. I just wanted to see what this guy had, especially after coming back the way that he did. I really wanted to see what he had in Major League Baseball. And then if he doesn't have anything and you want to go to a different guy, then you make this move. But to not even give him a chance after what he went through is tough for me as well. And I agree with Kevin. This is a tough moment for him. But like I said, I have no chance he's going to land somewhere else and he's going to be fine. So tough moment, but not my favorite move ever at all. You guys know how I feel, especially about guys that don't get their shot. This is one of them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with him.
And I will say, I did speak to someone, and they told me he's fine. He's obviously disappointed about it, but he's doing well, and he understands it's a business move. He's excited. Sure. He's really excited for what's to come, and yeah.